Hey folks, thank you for tuning in again. I also mentioned that you please like, comment, share, subscribe, follow. Thank you so much. As it relates to part 3 for the red flags that I've experienced with this therapist, let's continue. Number 5, I noticed that she didn't have kind eyes when I looked at her. I think about the phrase of how eyes are the window to the soul. Like sometimes you can look at people in their eyes, in addition to their body language and the things that they say, like little stuff. But overall, like you can just look at them and they have a countenance that just don't look right. It just don't look right. Something off, you know? Something is off. Jesus. Some of y'all can y'all can think about some stuff. Oh my gosh. Spiritually speaking, like sometimes the Holy Spirit will allow you to see things that's obviously deeper than what the natural eye sees, you know? That's discernment. And so again, she didn't have kind eyes. Like when I look at her, I feel uneasy. As I'm talking to her sometimes, it was just I'm talking about a situation, but I do pray God just heals her. I don't want to say she probably was plotting as she heard me sometimes speak or whatnot, but it was just not holy. It wasn't holy. It didn't look right, bro. And I'm gonna just leave that right there. I just know I feel uneasy. Let me tell you something. Oh God, I have an awesome example. There's this guy I know that's a pastor. However, he ain't right either. He's just not right. And I can look at him in his eyes. He does not have a loving some people don't feel right, bro. You ever be around people and you talk to them like something off about you, take that and do something with it. And from my life experiences, when you don't feel right about the person, just leave them alone. Leave them alone. Leave them alone. Leave them alone. I'm gonna move on from that because I'm just moving on from that. But didn't have kind eyes. Just something was off in the countenance sometimes when I talk to her. 6, I never felt I could trust her. I felt uneasy about her. It's like I'm talking. Oh God. And I also felt like I had to watch her. Like you ever just be, I don't know about y'all. Some of y'all might have a friend group and you got like a total of 4 friends in your friend group, including yourself. And the other 3, man, they your friends, they your dogs, they your ace boom coons. But for that other friend, that one friend out of y'all whole friend group, you gotta keep an eye on them. Don't you ever forget that. Don't you ever forget that. If you feel like you have to keep your eye on somebody, you need to leave them alone. Leave them alone. If they are not a child which needs guidance, or someone that might be disabled or whatnot, leave them alone. And let me be very clear that like there's people in relationships. They are in relationships with people who are not trustworthy, and you got to keep your eye on them. Such as I got to keep checking his or her phone, checking where they go when they go to work or after work. Stuff like you always have to keep watching them. Turn to a private investigator. Like that stuff is weird, bro. You need to leave them alone. And I need some water, but I'll be all right. And I never felt like I could trust her. I felt uneasy about her. I felt like I had to watch her. No, this is supposed to be a safe space. What is this? No. And as I mentioned in part 1, the reason why I was there to see this therapist to begin with was to just basically seeking her services or whatnot, just to get a misdiagnosis undone, you know. And I'll talk about that later. The story of that, but essentially the system of how misdiagnosis work. It's terrible. But I would also feel terrible in my spirit at the thought of allowing her to see my past misdiagnosis paperwork. I genuinely feel like God was like telling me, obviously, how I felt like, hey, don't give her that paperwork. But also, it was essentially giving information to someone that's cosplaying as trustworthy. You shouldn't confide in everyone. Everyone is not qualified to help you. They're just not. For various reasons, at times we don't understand. But yeah. So that, number 8, as I'm observing her, obviously she's observing me. Having a conversation, just me and her in the room. And at times, with observations, we don't always say what we observe. And then sometimes, based on what we observe, we speak up, or it eventually comes to light in conversations. From her observation about me, that I found, it had me thinking. from her observation about me, she mentioned that my expressive nonverbals are bigger than my verbals. And she mentioned this, how she could see it within my eyes. And it made me think. It made me think about, like, in question, like, what are the depths of evil that which is observing me? And let me say this. Again, folks, sometimes safe spaces are snake dens, right? Sometimes you could be talking to people and you think it's just a conversation, but they're plotting. They're plotting. And so for her to mention about what she observes about me, it had me thinking, what are the depths of this person, the evil within this person? What else do you see that you may warp for evil, you know? And a shout out to Karina Lude, Mental Gems. Karina Lude herself. I thank God for your channel. Beautiful, beautiful content, very necessary. Be encouraged, okay? Do that. But she mentioned, and I always will remember, evil has no rules. That's why there's no honor among thieves, honey. It had me thinking, what's the depths of the evil that's before me? I'm talking, thinking this is a safe space, it's a therapist. But what's the depths of the evil that's before me? Ooh. And so from that statement, on that, for example, I guess Monday, Tuesday, whatever that was, that day I saw her, that night, as I'm sleeping, but that night I have a spiritual experience, to where a witch astral projected and mentioned to me, we know when you're lying, or something to the effect of, I can tell when you're lying. I can tell when you're lying. And when I heard that, based on what I saw and how that voice came across, it's like she tried to disguise herself as the voice of God. She tried to. And obviously I pray to God. But here's the connection, folks. This lady looked like the woman in that dream I mentioned in part 1 that stated, she's a pretty lady, isn't she? The witch from that dream to what I experience now, when she said, oh, I can tell when you're lying, trying to masquerade as a voice of God. Then that's when I realized, I said, oh, okay, her and this therapist, they're connected. They're connected. So then moving forward, I don't know if this is before what I just said or afterwards, this therapist, as we're talking and whatnot, I remember she mentioned in the conversation, hear me, she mentioned, I have a 6'5", 300-pound boyfriend that does whatever I say. And when she said that, I was really trying to gather my facial expressions, because I don't believe in that. And just being transparent, she does have a Jezebel spirit. I don't believe in that. No, boyfriends, husbands, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband or wife, control. No, that's not the heart of God. And you're a Christian. No. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Yeah. Yeah. And so when she said that, moving on to whatnot, I was praying to God. And he brought back to my remembrance the very first dream I had about this woman that I mentioned in part 1, where the lady in the dream, the therapist in the dream, she's yelling at me. And I'm just like, yeah. But mind you, Jesus, her boyfriend is standing in the doorway as blockage. And she just told me in a therapy session how she has a 6'5", 300-pound boyfriend that does whatever I say. Folks, in the dream, her boyfriend is standing in the doorway as blockage, as a preventive. I don't know about y'all, but what comes to my spirit is like, I'm not saying that's what would have happened, but I'm trying to paint a picture to get y'all to understand. Imagine being trapped in a room and somebody's, and you got a big dude in the doorway. You want to leave the room. You have a hindrance in the doorway. And when honey, look, moving forward, I just stopped. I ain't never went back. I ain't never went back. I ain't going back. I do pray God heals her or whatnot. Stay tuned for a recap and to essentially summarize the heart of this message for the sake of Mental Health Awareness Month. Stay tuned for part 4.